Hare Krishna. So today we will have our session number 27. And today we will study three chapters, chapter 3, 3.17, 3.18, and 3.19. So today we will conclude this pastime of Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha, right? So starting from the beginning, from chapter 17. So the birth of two great demons. So, so before it was mentioned that, quote, hearing that her grandson would be a great devotee and that her sons would be killed by Krishna, Diti was highly pleased in mind, right? It was mentioned before. So, okay, so it was like that. But at the same time, however, Diti, she was afraid of the disturbances that her sons would cause, right, to the universe, to the demigods. And in this way, she delayed the delivery as long as possible. She kept them inside her womb for 100 years, right? So very long time. 9 months is difficult. We can imagine 100 years. So there were two reasons for that. One reason was selfless, right? This first reason is that she wanted to spare the inhabitants of the universe from the suffering that her sons would cause for as long as possible, right? So at least for now, they could live in peace. The second reason was selfish. She wanted to keep her sons inside her womb to prevent them from being killed, right? So there are these two sides, right? However, despite Diti's best efforts, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, they started causing disturbances even from inside the womb. Like even as small embryos, they were extremely powerful and they started blocking the light of the sun and the moon. And this left the planets of the universe, completely in darkness, right? So so when so the demigods, they became very surprised with that. It never happened before. And they started discussing between themselves, what to do, how to solve this situation. And when the demigods, they saw themselves incapable of solving the situation, then they very anxiously traveled to Brahma Loka and they asked Lord Brahma for help, right? No, please help us. And Brahma answered then by telling the story of the curse of Jaya and Vijaya by the four Kumaras. And he openly admitted that he was not able to do anything, right? So he explained, like, quote, those two principal doorkeepers of the personality of Godhead have now entered the womb of Diti, the powerful semen of Kasyapa Muni having covered them. So this means that, these material bodies created from the semen of Kasyapa covered these two personalities, right? So, okay, continuing. So Brahma says, it is the prowess of these twin asuras, demons, that has disturbed you, for it has minimized your power. There is no remedy within my power, however, for it is the Lord Himself who desires all of this, right? So the demigods, they went to Brahma. The demigods, they couldn't solve the problem, so they went to Brahma, but Brahma openly admitted that, yeah, I'm sorry, but I also can't do anything. So he explained that the Lord Himself would soon come as an incarnation to deal with the problem, right? And therefore, there was no point in further discussing the situation. Nothing could be done. They will just have to tolerate, right? So, incapable of fighting these two powerful demons, the demigods, they would have to just tolerate the situation until the Lord would appear to fight with them, right? So there was nothing to be done. In fact, it is described that the demigods later, they had to run from Hiranyaksha, right? And they were even forced to serve Hiranyakashipu. And although repeatedly challenged by the two demons, none of the demigods they tried to directly fight them. They understood that no, it's hopeless, right? But still, after meeting Lord Brahma, they felt relieved because now they understood what was going on and they understood that the Lord was already taking care of the problem. Therefore, there was no need for them to be concerned, right? They just had to wait. And this is actually the kind of mentality that we should have when we have problems. Because just like in this situation, the Lord is taking care. So we just need to wait, right? It will be solved, right? That's okay. We just need to, it's just going to take some time. So we need to learn to just be patient and just wait, right? The intervention of the Lord, just like the demigods they were doing. So, okay, so at the end of the 100 years, Diti finally gave birth to the twin brothers, right? So Hiranyaksha, he was born first, and thus, following the Vedic system, he was considered the junior brother, while Hiranyakashipu, who was born later, was considered senior. So different from most cultures, in the Vedic system, it's considered that in the case of twin brothers, the one conceived like first and thus the older, it's considered that he stays deeper in the womb and in this way he's born later. And the baby who is conceived last, he is the first to be born, right? That's Vedic conception. That's the Vedic idea. It's different. It's the opposite from most countries nowadays, from most cultures. So, so Hiranyaksha was the first to be born, therefore he was considered a junior, and Hiranyakashipu, who was born later, he was considered the senior brother, right? That's Vedic understanding. So okay, so when they were born, very inauspicious signs they appeared all over the universe, and this included earthquakes, fires, thunderbolts, strong winds, thick clouds. Like animals, they felt very disturbed. Inauspicious planets they appeared in the sky, and so on. Right, so many inauspicious signs. Everything together. So it's also described that the images, quote, the images of the gods in the temples shed tears. So and this of course applies to images of demigods in different temples, right? Not to deities of the Lord. The Lord is always transcendental. There is no question of the Lord crying. If the Lord cries, is a good thing. That's ecstasy. But there is no, cry in a negative sense connected with the Lord. These were only deities of demigods. So in his purport, Prabhupada mentions, right, something interesting. He says that we can learn from the description of the Srimad Bhagavatam that it is because of the birth of two great demons that there were so many natural disturbances. So it is to be indirectly understood, as previously described, that when there are constant disturbances on the earth, that is an omen, that's a signal that some demoniac people have been born or that the demoniac population has increased. In former days, there were two demons, right? Those born of Diti. Yet there were so many disturbances. At the present day, especially in this age of Kali, these disturbances are always visible, which indicates that the demoniac population has certainly increased. Okay, that's the end of the quote. So Prabhupada, he continues in his purports to make the point that the problem of the world, right, including nowadays, is not overpopulation, but is the increase of Varna Shankara, right, or children of low consciousness begotten without the necessary purificatory processes from degraded parents and so on. So that's the problem because when good children are born, right? When good children take birth, then everything is wonderful. Everything becomes auspicious. The more good children we have in the planet, the better it is, right? So the problem is not overpopulation, it's the wrong type of population taking birth on the planet. And to increase, this good population, the only process that can achieve that is the spread of Krishna consciousness, right? And also education, educating people about the process of begetting enlightened children. So we can see that the whole pastime that we are studying, it happens around Diti forcing her husband, right, into begetting a child at an inappropriate time with inappropriate consciousness. So you see, that's how it happens. If we have proper consciousness when we beget children, then the children that come are always wonderful. And then, okay, next point, problems and what we can learn from them, right? Haribo. So one cold question, how the Lord could allow the demigods to face these difficulties, right? The demigods, they had a lot of problems because of the Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So considering that the demigods are his devotees, right? Maybe not pure devotees, but devotees nonetheless, how could the Lord allow the demigods to suffer in this way, to have so many difficulties? And the point is exactly that although highly elevated, the demigods, they're still affected by material desires. And therefore, the Lord allows great demons to come periodically for the Lord allows great calamities to disturb the demigods and so on, so they can become humbled and take shelter of him. Because normally the demigods, because they are so powerful, they can solve all the problems, right? They can fight the demons, they can do all kinds of things. So they have this tendency of becoming a little proud, and pride makes us forget the Lord. But then when some, problem that they can't solve appears, some calamity appears, then they become humble. Then they have to go to the Lord, and ask for his help, right? So this is actually positive for them. And this is also a similar situation to what we face, right? Because with all the problems and difficulties that we have in material life, because although these different situations, they are the result of our previous actions, karma, all these things. In the case of the devotee, this previous karma, these sinful reactions, they are filtered by the Lord, and they are presented in ways that can help us to advance. And the same process that happens with the demigods. These negative consequences of our previous acts that are filtered by the Lord, they force us to take shelter into the Lord, right? And this can be, quite bitter pills, of course, but if we take the situations with the right mentality, then they can help us to advance faster in spiritual life, right? And one may question, why the Lord allows this or that to happen, but it's important to understand that the alternative, like staying in this material world, life after life, even if with nothing wrong happening, this would be much worse, right? So despite so difficult situations, they should thus be seen as the Lord trying to, shake us off from material life and making us renew our efforts to go back to Godhead. Right? So when we see problems like that, then they can be seen in a positive light. And another question that we can learn is that problems, they can be solved by approaching a higher authority, right? So, for example, Arjuna was perplexed before the battle of Kurukshetra, but after approaching Krishna, then the doubts were destroyed and he could understand perfectly what to do, right? So similarly, after approaching Brahma, the demigods, they could perfectly understand the situation, and they started, happily waiting for the appearance of the Lord, right? The problem was solved in a sense. Okay, then the next point, Hiranyaksha conquers all directions, right? There was no illustration of Hiranyaksha conquering all directions, nowhere. So I just had to improvise here on the illustration. So anyway, as soon as they were born, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they started growing, right? Like normal babies do. But they grow very fast, not like normal babies. They started growing like very, very quickly. So their bodies, they were extremely strong, like metal. And they became big like mountains, like great mountains. They will touch the sky. So quote, that's from verse 17. Their bodies became so tall that they seemed to kiss the sky with the crests of their gold crowns. They blocked the views of all directions, and while walking, shook their arms at every step. Their arms were adorned with brilliant bracelets, and they stood as if covering the sun with their waists, which were bound with excellent and beautiful girdles. Right? So they were so quick, so big that if they would be close to you, you would look, even looking up, we would only see their waists, right, blocking the sun. The head would be still higher, right? So Hiranaksha, he took a club and he started traveling all over the universe, looking for opponents to fight with him. And he was not only extremely strong, but also very proud. And he had no fear of death, right? So all the demigods, they were running and hiding from him. And thus he could easily conquer the celestial planetary system, right? And then they entered the ocean and they challenged Varuna for a fight. And Varuna, he is the predominating deity of the waters. And it is described that he lives in a celestial city called Vibhavari, right? That is somewhere in the western side of the universe, deep inside the cosmic ocean. So after, many years playing inside the waters, Hiranyaksha finally found Varuna's capital, and he went there and he challenged him to a fight, right? So this is verse 27. Vibhavari is the home of Varuna, lord of the aquatic creatures and guardian of the lower regions of the universe, where the demons generally reside. There, Hiranyaksha fell at Varuna's feet like a low-born man, and to make fun of him, he said with a smile, "Give me battle, O Supreme Lord." So he was mocking Varuna, right? He was not offering obeisances to him out of respect. It was mockery, right? It was, "Oh, Supreme Lord, you are so great. Fight with me," right? So he was just mocking him in this way. So Prabhupada mentions that a demoniac person always likes to challenge others, right? And, and he tries to occupy others' properties by force. He tries to take things from others by force. And Hiranyaksha, he mocked Varuna because he wanted to pick up a fight with him, right? That's usually a very efficient way if you want to pick up a fight with a kshatriya, right? You go to him and you start mocking him. But somehow, now Varuna was able to and control his anger because he understood that I'm not supposed to fight this demon. No, it's impossible. I will not defeat him. So he remembered the words of Brahma. So, so posing himself as a weak person, Varuna told Hiranyaksha that he was too old to satisfy him in a fight, right? So he said that if Hiranyaksha wanted a worthy opponent, he should look for the Supreme Lord. So there is two verses here, 30 and 31. Uh, quote, "You are so skilled in war that I do not see anyone else but the most ancient person, Lord Vishnu, who can give satisfaction in battle to you. Therefore, O chief of the Asuras, approach him, whom even heroes like you mention with praise." Varuna continued. On reaching him, you will be rid of your pride and at once, and will lie down on the field of battle, surrounded by dogs for eternal sleep. It is in order to exterminate wicked fellows like you and to show his grace to the virtuous that he assumes various incarnations like Varaha, right? Jai, unquote. So, up to here, Hiranyaksha, he had conquered the whole universe without fighting a single opponent. Everyone was running. No one wanted to fight him. So after speaking with Brahma, like all the demigods, they understood that it was pointless to oppose him. That's why they were all running. And so they were just running from him, right? Allowing him to conquer everything. So Hiranyaksha was thus frustrated because he wanted to fight. He wanted to find some powerful opponent to fight. And Varuna thus indicated that his desire could be satisfied only by fighting with the Lord, right? Haribo. So now the art falls into the ocean. So in his purports, Prabhupada makes the point that while devotees wish to engage everything in the service of the Lord, demons, they have the mentality of exploiting the resources of the material universe, like to the maximum extent. And they not only do that like uh, personally, right? No, but they also engage all their family members, right, to increase their dominion over material nature, right? And so Hiranyakashipu was very fond of gold. And to satisfy him, Hiranyaksha, he extensively mined or planned to extract huge quantities of gold. So we can see by this example that, this kind of consumeristic society that we have nowadays, it is actually a demoniac thing because it's based on this instinct of the demoniac to exploit the resources of material nature more and more and engage everyone in this endeavor, right, of exploiting more and more the planet, extracting more and more from nature, right, and doing other things, using these resources for our own selfish goals, right? So that's the same spirit that Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu had. So Prabhupada explains that planets they float on the ether of deep space through a very delicate balance of subtle energies, which is not very well understood by modern scientists, right? Scientists nowadays they tend to consider gravity the only factor that holds the planets in their orbits. But the Vedas explain that no, there are a very delicate balance of energies that that keeps the planets in their orbits. So as he explains, this delicate balance can be disturbed by excessive mining of natural resources and also other factors. And he mentions on 271 Prabhupada says that only uh, under certain conditions do the planets float as weightless balls in the air. And as soon as these conditions are disturbed, the planets may fall down in the Garbhodaka Ocean, which covers half of the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary systems exist. The floating of the planets in the weightlessness of air, of space, is due to the inner constitution of the globes and the modernized drilling of the earth to exploit oil from within is a sort of disturbance by the modern demons and can result in a greatly harmful reaction to the floating condition of the earth. A similar disturbance was created formerly by the demons headed by Hiranyaksha, the greater exploiter of the gold rush, and the art was detached from its weightless, weightless condition and fell down to the Garbhodaka ocean. The Lord, as maintainer of the whole creation of the material world, therefore assumed the gigantic form of a boar with a proportionate snout and picked up the art from within the water of Garbhodaka. Unquote. So you see, that by his excessive mining, Hiranyaksha, he disturbed this delicate balance that keeps our planet in orbit, and he made it fall into the Garbhodaka Ocean. Some sources they argue that it was not just our planet, but the whole Bhumandala that submerged in the causal ocean, just like in the first appearance of Lord Varaha. But Prabhupada he seems to agree with the version that just our planet was submerged because he oriented the artist to paint a red Varahadeva lifting up a spherical art from the depths of the ocean, right? And this idea is also confirmed on his purport to 3:18:19. There, Prabhupada says that here the art planet is called Ila. This art was formerly known as Ilavrita Varsa, and when Maharaja Parikshit ruled the art, it was called Bharatavarsa. Actually, Bharatavarsa is the name for the entire planet, but gradually, Bharatavarsa has come to mean India, right? Unquote. So, anyway, the fact that our planet fell into the Garbhodaka Ocean doesn't mean that it was destroyed, but it went out of its proper orbit, right? And it fell into the lower regions of the universe that are inhabited by demons. And this happens at the beginning of the 60 Manvantara. And calculating in terms of years here of our planet, it was about 800 million years ago, right? So in that situation, the Lord appeared as Varaha to save the day, right? Haribol. So now Hiranyaksha fights the Lord, and that's chapter 318. You see here this illustration, right? The red Varaha lifting up the spherical art from the ocean. So Prabhupada himself, he guided the artists to depict it in that way. So okay, so continuing. So in the previous chapter, Varuna he warned Hiranyaksha that on reaching the Lord, he would be rid of his pride and he would fall dead in the field of battle, right? So in other words, no, that would be his end. Hiranyaksha, however, he was overconfident and he paid no attention to this warning, right? So he was just interested in finding a powerful enemy. His consciousness was completely focused on that. He was not processing anything else. So in the Lago Bhagavatamrita, it's revealed that the whole pastime of Jaya and Vijaya, it started from their secret desire to test their strength with the Lord, like in a mock fight against Lord Vishnu. Because being the true gatekeepers of the Lord, they are the two strongest persons in Vaikuntha. And thus they had the desire of serving the Lord by entertaining him in a fight. That was their idea. However, there is no possibility of anyone fighting the Lord in Vaikuntha, right? So therefore, the fight had to happen in the material world. It was the only place for that, right? Just like you can't fight inside the school, right? You need to fight outside, right? You need to go outside to fight. So something like that. So they had to come to the material world to fight. So the Lord does, he used the curse of the Kumaras as an excuse to satisfy their desire, right? And at the same time play, a wonderful pastime. So every day of Brahma, the Lord comes as Varaha and Rishinha, and he fights two powerful demons, right? But these are like regular demons from this material world. But in this particular time, Jain Vijaya, he assumed the post of these two demons. And in this way, they satisfied the Lord, by fighting with him, right? And they also satisfied their own desire, right? They also wanted that. So Hiranyaksha, he started when they met. So Hiranyaksha, after hearing Varuna, right, he started looking for Lord Vishnu, right, to challenge him. And just like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, he was a devotee of Lord Brahma. And he performed great austerities to receive a boon of immortality. So while asking for his boon, he mentioned that he didn't want to be killed by any human or demigod, and also by a long list of different animals, right? But he didn't include the boar. because he didn't thought that a boar could kill him, right? So therefore, the Lord came specifically in the form of a boar to kill him, right? And in this and he combined it with his pastime of lifting the ark. So although the Lord is free to do anything he wants, he generally chooses to respect the boons given by the demigods, because the demigods are his devotees, right? And both Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, they were devotees of the Lord Brahma. And the Lord killed them in ways that respected the blessings that Lord Brahma had given to them, right? So, so just as when he appeared during the first Manvantara, right? Lord Varaha, he appeared second time to fight Hiranyaksha from the nostril of Brahma, right? Remember, first appearance of Lord Varaha was right in the beginning of the universe, first Manvantara, and the second appearance of Lord Varaha is in the sixth Manvantara, right? So he appeared in both times he appeared from the nostril of Brahma, first as a small boar, and then he quickly increased in size up to the point of becoming much bigger than our planet, right? It is described that while he was lifting the art, our planet looked like a small spot at the end of his tusk, right? And from this description, we can have an idea about his size, right? He was gigantic. So when the demon heard from Narada Muni, right, that the Lord had appeared in the form of a boar and he was, lifting the art from the depths of the Garbhodaka ocean, he immediately rushed there to fight with the Lord, right, of course. Because demons, they can't understand the transcendental nature of the Lord. And thus they think that they can kill him just like a normal mortal being, right? So Hiranyaksha, he concluded that if he killed the Lord, the demigods and the great sages, they would automatically also cease to exist, like just like trees without roots, right? And in this way, the demons, they could easily dominate the universe, right? So with these thoughts in mind, he challenged the Lord to a fight, right? Haribo. And now Hiranyaksha indirectly glorifies the Lord. And this is it's quite interesting. Because there are many passages on the Srimad Bhagavatam where demons, they appear to offend the Lord, right? Criticize and offend the Lord. But our acharyas, they reveal that actually all these passages, they glorify the Lord, right? There is always some hidden meanings in the words that, although the kind of primary meaning, is kind of, an offense to the Lord, but there is always secondary meanings that show actually that these demons, they are actually glorifying the Lord. And this is one example. So, okay, so this is verse 3:18:3, right? So Hiranyaksha, he said, Jahasacha Hovana Gocharo Mrigaha Ahainam Ehiyagya Mahin Vimuncha no Rasau Kasham Vishwasrejayam Arpita Naswasi Yasyasi Anaya Mamekshata Surada Masadita Sukara Krite. Right? So, okay. So, in his translation, Prabhupada, he gives the direct meaning of the verse, right? And then he gives this meaning of Hiranyaksha challenging the Lord. So, the demon left. Oh, an amphibious beast. Then the demon addressed the Lord. O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This art is entrusted to you, to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be hurt by me. Right? So that's the primary meaning that Prabhupada puts in the translation. However, in the purport, Prabhupada, he explains that this verse, it has a double meaning. And Sridhara Swami, he explains in his commentary of the Srimad Bhagavatam that this verse is also a glorification of the Lord. And it's the same for other verses, right? Where demons, they appear to blaspheme the Lord. They all have similar hidden meanings where the Lord is actually glorified. So according to Sridhara Swami, right, these alternate meanings of the words used in the verse are here. So I put the words here in bold, and then we have the translation, the alternate translation of all these words. So let's see here. So Vanagocharo, it means one who lies on the water, right? And this properly addresses the Lord in his form as Garbhodaka Vishnu, right? Because in this form he lies in the Garbhodaka ocean. Then we have the word Mriga, who is sought after by great sages, saintly persons, and transcendentalists. Then we have Agya. There is no knowledge that is unknown to the Supreme Lord. Means he knows everything. And then Suradama. Sura refers to the demigods, and Adama means the Lord of all that that is, right? And this indicates that Lord Varaha is the best of all demigods, that he is the supreme Lord, right? Suradama. And then we have Mama Ikshata. And this means that in spite of my presence, you are completely able to take away the arts. Means there is nothing I can do to stop you. You are all powerful. And Na Swasti Yashi Shasi. Unless you kindly takes this art from our custody, there can be no good fortune to us. Means so please take from us this art, it's yours, right? So in this way, when we take the hidden meaning of the words, this passage it can be translated as, this is my own translation, okay? So we can translate like that. Hiranyaksha said, "Oh, you who lies on the water, you who are sought after by great sages, saintly persons, and transcendentalists. Oh, the best of all demigods. Oh, supreme Lord who took the form of a boar. Oh, supreme person who knows everything. Come and fight with me. The inhabitants of the lower regions unlawfully took possession of the arts, and unless you take it back from our custody, there can be no good fortune for us. Although I'm so powerful, you were able to take away the art, despite my presence." Right? So see, that's the hidden meaning, quite different, right? So in this way, Hiranyaksha indirectly glorifies the Lord. And then we have the second text, or text 4, right? And there Prabhupada translated the direct meaning as, quote, "You rascal, you have been nourished by your enemies to kill us, and you have killed some demons by remaining invisible. Oh, fool, your power is only mystic. So today I shall enliven my kinsmen by killing you." Okay, unquote. So this is the direct meaning. However, in the purport, Prabhupada, he reveals the hidden meaning of the words. And then taking these indirect meanings, we can translate the verse in a completely different way. So see, you have been sent by your enemies, the demigods, to liberate us from the cycle of birth and death. The activities of your internal potency are inconceivable, and although you remain invisible, you deliver us from the clutches of ignorance, which, although ordinarily powerful, becomes meager in your presence. All miseries from material existence can be extinguished by your internal potency, Yoga Maya. And by this potency, you can wipe out the grief of my kinsmen. Right? So you see, interesting, right? So you are free to interpret in any of the two ways, okay? But it's interesting to understand that these verses, they have two meanings. And in one of these meanings, the Lord is actually glorified with such, actually quite high praise, right? So, okay. But in any case, Hiranyaksha, he challenged the Lord for a fight and he started chasing him. Jaya and Vijaya, they had been blessed by the Lord to remember him in anger, right? Always, like an enemy. And Hiranyaksha, he was of course exhibiting this mood, right? So he was showing this mood of anger, but still, because he's the eternal associate of the Lord he couldn't avoid. And at the same time, indirectly, his words, they glorify the Lord, right? So interesting, right? So, okay, so the Lord plays with the snake because Hiranyaksha is compared in the verse with a snake. So now the Lord is charming this snake, is playing with this snake. So, okay, so at this moment, the Lord was lifting the ark from the ocean, right? And even those, chased and abused by Hiranyaksha, he continued his duty of lifting the ark, right? And Prabhupada mentions in his purport that this shows that a dutiful person has nothing to fear, right? Even though being chased by a powerful demon, the Lord first finished his duty of lifting the ark, right? He finished what he was doing, and then only then he went to fight with him. And another meaning was to show the demigods that they should not be afraid of the demons, right? While performing their duties, because the Lord was always present to protect them. Right? So just do your duties, nothing will happen. So as he mentions, quote, the demons, the region of the Lord was just like the barking of dogs. The Lord did not care about it, since he was doing his own work in delivering the art from the midst of the water. Jai. And then there is another quote here from Prabhupada. Quote, for a dutiful man, there is nothing to fear. Similarly, those who are powerful have no fear of derision or unkind words from an enemy. The Lord had nothing to fear from anyone, yet he was merciful to his enemy by neglecting him. Although apparently he fled from the challenge, it was just to protect the art from the calamity that he tolerated Hiranyaksha's deriding words. Right? So this is 18:7 purport. So, okay. So the Lord then gently placed the art on the surface of the water and he transferred to her his energy in the form of the ability to float in the waters of the universal ocean. So in this way, he put the water, the art back, right? So having concluded this pastime, then the Lord prepared to the second pastime, like to fight with the demon. So then this is described here in the Bhagavatam. Quote, the demon who had a wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body chased the Lord from behind with a great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, but in order to reply him, he expressed his terrible anger. The personality of God had said, indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the laws of death. Right? So in his purport, Prabhupada mentions that, quote, a demon may be a great soldier and commander of a large number of infantry, but in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is powerless and is destined to die. The Lord therefore challenged the demon not to go away, but to fulfill his promised word to kill him. So the Lord said to Hiranyaksha, no, you said that you are going to kill me? Okay, I'm here, just try, right? So it's described that being challenged by the Lord like this, Hiranyaksha, he became very angry and very agitated, like a cobra, right? Like a snake. And for ordinary people, cobra is a very poisonous and very dangerous snake, right? But for a snake charmer, right, the snake charmer can play with it and make this cobra do whatever he wants, right? So similarly, a demon may be powerful compared to other demons and to demigods and to ordinary people, but before the Lord, in front of the Lord, any demon is insignificant, right? The Lord can play with him, do whatever he wants. So Ravana was terrorizing the demigods, right? But when he was challenged by Rama, he trembled and prayed to Lord Shiva, right? Please help me. But even this was not sufficient to save him, right? Lord Shiva couldn't do anything. to protect him. So for some time, the Lord enjoyed fighting with Hiranyaksha, like hitting him with his mace, being stuck by him, right? He was enjoying this fight. And he seemed like very indignantly, all his senses, shaking by wrath. The demon, he attacked him. He dealt, he hit the Lord with his powerful mace, right? And but for the sake of the pastime, the Lord didn't show the full extent of his power. And thus he appeared to be fighting the demon on equal terms, right? The Lord was like fighting with a hand on the back, so to say. He was holding his power, so he could fight more or less on equal level with Hiranyaksha, so he could enjoy the fight. Because if the Lord uses all his power, then he kills Hiranyaksha in, half a second, right? So, okay, so verses 14 to 18, quote. Hissing indignantly, all his senses shaken by wrath. So the demon quickly sprang upon the Lord and dealt him a blow with his powerful mace. The Lord, however, by moving slightly aside, dodged the violent mace blow aimed at his breast by the enemy, just as an accomplished yogi would elude death. The personality of Godhead now exhibited his anger and rushed to meet the demon, who bit his lip in rage, took up his mace again, and began to repeatedly brandish it about, moving it on the air. So then, with his mace, the Lord struck the enemy on the right of his brow. But since the demon was expert in fighting, O gentle Vidura, he protected himself by a maneuver of his own mace. In this way, the demon Hiranyaksha and the Lord, the personality of Godhead, struck each other with their huge maces, each enraged and seeking his own victory. Haribo, right? Such wonderful narration, right? Looks like you are there. So although the verse mentions that the Lord was enraged, or in other words, he was angry, right, while fighting Hiranyaksha, Shilajiva Goswami, he mentions that this anger was just for the sake of the pastime. It was just an external show. Internally, the Lord was never angry with Jai and Vijay, right? So it's also mentioned that the Lord exhibited signs of being wounded, right? Sustaining injuries from the blows of Hiranyaksha. And these supposed wounds were also just a show because the transcendental body of the Lord can't be hurt, right? The body of the Lord is fully spiritual, right? And spirit, it can't be cut, it can't be dried, it can't be burnt, it can't be moistened, right? So the Lord can't be hurt, but he can, if he wants, show some form that looks like, some blood is coming or whatever. But this is just his pastime, right? It's not that he's, factually hurt or that it's possible to hurt the Lord. So, during the battle of Kurukshetra, for example, Bhima, he aimed his arrows at the Lord instead of Arjuna when he was fighting with him, because he understood that different from Arjuna, the Lord will not be hurt, right? Bhishmadeva understood everything. So the Lord then accepted these arrows just like an offering of flowers, even though externally he showed symptoms of being hurt, right? Having his garland, sprinkled with blood and so on. This was just pastime. So the so-called wounds, they are just like ornaments that increased the beauty of the Lord, like during this fighting pastime. So they were just like ornaments that appeared on the body of the Lord. And Prabhupada, he explains this in more details in his purport to 1934. So now we go back to the first canto, right? So, quote, besides that, since the Lord's body and the Lord are identical, there was no possibility of wounds in the absolute body. The apparent wounds caused by the sharpened arrows are misleading to the common man, but one who has a little absolute knowledge can understand the transcendental exchange in the chivalrous relation, right? So here Prabhupada is describing this fight between Bhishma and the Lord. So continuing. The Lord was perfectly happy with the wounds caused by the sharpened arrows of Bhishma Deva. The word Vibhijamana is significant because the Lord's skin is not different from the Lord. Because our skin is different from our soul, in our case, the word Vibhijamana, or being bruised and cut, would have been quite suitable. Transcendental bliss is of different varieties, and the variety of activities in the mundane world is but a perverted reflection of transcendental bliss. Because everything in the mundane world is qualitatively mundane, it is full of inebrities, whereas in the absolute realm, because everything is of the same absolute nature, there are varieties of enjoyment without inebriety. The Lord enjoyed the wounds created by his great devotee, Bhishmadeva. And because Bhishmadeva is a devotee in the chivalrous relation, he fixes up his mind on Krishna in that wounded condition. Jai, like unquote. So the Lord appears to have fought with Hiranyaksha for a long time, right? Because the battle extended up to when it was almost night. So demons, they become more active and more powerful at night, while devotees, they are more powerful during the day. So apprehensive, about the prospect of Hiranyaksha becoming even more powerful, Lord Brahma, he urged the Lord to finish the fight and kill him while it was still day, right? So Lord Brahma said, these are verses 24, 25, quote, "My dear Lord, there is no need to play with this serpentine demon, who is always very skilled in conjuring tricks and is arrogant, self-sufficient, and most wicked. My dear Lord, you are infallible. Please kill this sinful demon before the demoniac hour arrives and he presents another formidable approach favorable to him. You can kill him by your internal potency without doubt." Right? Haribo. So, okay, so now finally Hiranyaksha is killed, right? And that's chapter 319. So, hearing the prayers of Brahma to finish the demon, the Lord laughed and he looked very lovingly at Brahma, right? Accepting his prayer. And he continued fighting the demon. So at first, he let Hiranyaksha disarm him, right? So he is mace slipping from his hand after being hit by the mace of Hiranyaksha. So he let the mace fall. So the Lord then invoked his Sudarshana chakra, right? And when Hiranyaksha tried to again attack the Lord with his mace, he knocked down the mace with his foot, right? Very easily. Boom. So the demon then attacked the Lord with a trident. But this trident, it was cut to pieces by the Lord's chakra. Then he started hitting the Lord with his bare fists, right? But the Lord, he stayed unaffected, right? Just like an elephant is stuck by flowers. And this example is giving, just like you hit the elephant with a flower garland, right? Nothing happens, right? The elephant doesn't move, right? So actually was punching, the Lord so powerfully, and the Lord was like this, right? And then he tried to use magic tricks, like creating terrible illusions. But these were also quickly dispersed by the Sudarshana chakra. Right? And then Hiranyaksha, he tried to embrace the Lord, to smash him with his arms, right? And then again, he tried to stuck the Lord with his fists, but the Lord just slapped him on the root of the ear and he killed him, right? So you see, now the Lord manifested his true power and he killed Hiranyaksha very easily. So in 271, is described that Hiranyaksha, he was pierced by the tusk of the Lord. And we see that in this passage describes that he was killed with a slap in the ear. And this appears to be a contradiction, but it's not. The Lord killed him with a slap, And then when he was already dead, he pierced him with his tusk, right? So he did both things. That's why two verses mention different things. And this is the point about all kinds of apparent contradictory passages from the scriptures. They are not contradictory at all. They just explain the same thing from two sides. And the way to understand is that you need to see like this. Okay, from this side is like this, from this side is like that. And then we try to figure out how these two explanations are reconciled, right? But we can't take one as correct and the other as incorrect. That's ignorance. We need to accept both as correct, and from there, try to understand, okay, how they fit together, right? And then when we can do that, when we understand, okay, aha, then we get a better understanding of the point, because then we can see the same point from two sides, right? Instead of just one. It's okay, so Prabhupada explains this point. Quote, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, the demon Hiranyaksha was killed by the hand of the Lord. Therefore, his version is that after being killed by the hand of the Lord, the demon was pierced by the tusk. Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakura confirms this version, right? Haribo. Unquote. So how is that Hiranyaksha could fight so violently with the Lord, even though being his eternal servant? And how could the Lord also fight so violently with him, right? So Prabhupada compares this fight with a mock fight between a father and a son. So although they may get absorbed in the fight, it is ultimately just a play, right? There is no enmity between them, right? So Prabhupada makes this point, quote, as previously explained, the Lord was originally a servitor of the Lord in Vaikuntha, but somehow or other he fell as a demon. His fight with the Supreme Lord was meant for his liberation. The Lord enjoyed the striking on his transcendental body, just like a full-grown up fighter fighting with his child, right? Big man, he doesn't mind that, his small child will start, punching him. Even if the child, gets, into it and starts punching with, all his strength, the father will not mind that, right? Sometimes a father takes pleasure in having a mock fight with his small child, and similarly, the Lord felt Hiranyaksha's striking on his body to be like flowers offered for worship. In other words, the Lord desired to fight in order to enjoy his transcendental bliss. Therefore, he enjoyed the attack. Unquote. So Lord Brahma, he was surprised to see how Hiranyaksha he had met with such a blessed death. Because yogis, they meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for very long periods, like in secluded places. And Hiranyaksha, he received the touch of the forefoot of the Lord by just fighting with him as an enemy, right? So how wonderful is that? So Hiranyaksha, he was destined to take birth two times more as a demon, right? And then return to his original position when killed personally by Krishna. So in general, there are two ways of getting out of this material world. One, by becoming a pure devotee, right? And two, by becoming a powerful demon, powerful enough to be killed by the Lord, right? So there are these two options. Becoming a pure devotee is, of course, the easier and the recommended path. But this shows, how everyone who comes in contact with the Lord is blessed. Even if you come to the Lord as an enemy, still you are blessed, right? So you can imagine, the blessings that we get by approaching the Lord as a devotee, right? So in verse 30, the demigods, they also pray. They make the point that the form of the Lord is pure goodness, right? So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that the material mode of goodness is purer than others. Krishna doesn't say it's pure. He says it's better than the others, right? It's not completely pure. It is still material, and it's still contaminated by passion and ignorance to a certain extent, right? So the mode of goodness in the material world is just like, beer without alcohol. There is no beer without alcohol. What they do is that they filter the alcohol and they diminish the content of alcohol in the beer, but still there is some alcohol there. Therefore, so the mode of goodness is like that, is like filtered. So there is less passion and ignorance, but there is some there, somewhere, right? So that's why even great sages who are in this material mode of goodness, they become angry, sometimes they fall down with some apsara, right? Because passion and ignorance are still present there. So Suddha Sattva, or the mode of pure goodness, right, that exists on the spiritual platform, it is completely pure. It's untouched by any kind of material contamination. So the Lord is transcendental, and thus he is the ultimate goal of all sacrifices, right? And now that the Lord killed Hiranyaksha, the demigods, they felt again peaceful in their devotional service to the Lord, right? Haribo. And now, last one for today. So, after being praised by the demigods, right, the Lord returned to his abode, and it's described that in Vaikuntha there is always an uninterrupted festival, right? There is always, I know, joy. So it's also mentioned that the Lord is the origin of the boar species. And in fact, and of course, he is because he's the source of everything, right? Including, of course, the boar species and everything else, right? Everything that exists in the material world is a reflection of something that exists in the spiritual world. So the difference is that the material reflections, they are inverted images, right? So they are ephemeral, and not only that, they are inverted. They are the opposite. So in this way, what is the purest manifestation of love in the spiritual world, the love between Krishna and the gopis, is reflected in this material world as illicit relationships between men and women, right? Which are, the most degraded form of relationship. So similarly, the transcendental, beautiful, pure, and a glorious form of the Lord as a boar is reflected in this material world in the form of hogs and pigs, who are, not considered very glorious animals, right? So you see, that's the difference between the original and the reflection. So Maitreya also mentions how Hiranyaksha, he was the most powerful demon to appear up to that point in the history of the universe. Never before, at least in this universe, there was a demon powerful like Hiranyaksha, right? And he displayed like unprecedented powers that exceeded any other demon who appeared before, right? Or in other days of Brahma also. So such a powerful demon was killed by the Lord without difficulty, right? Just like a child destroys a toy. And this is yet another demonstration of the inconceivable power of the Lord. So after that, Maitreya, he concludes this narration, right? And after he concludes his description, the conversation returns to Sutta Goswami, and he continues to address Saunaka Rishi and the other sages in Naimisharanya, and he emphasizes the value of hearing about the glories of the Lord, and he offers us a benediction, right? Oh, we got a benediction for studying this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are so many benedictions in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you study this passage, you get this benediction. If you study that passage, you get that benediction. So when we study the whole Bhagavatam, we got so many benedictions. So let's see the benediction that we got now, right? By concluding the study of this passage. So, okay, so let's see. Quote, "O Brahmanas, anyone who hears," so see, this is for everyone, it's not just for the Brahmanas in Naimisharanya. "Anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana." Jai, so I feel lighter. I feel lighter after this. I hope you also feel, right? Jai. And in his purport, Prabhupada explains that the Lord is absolute, and therefore there is no difference between the Lord as a person and his pastimes, right? So it may not be possible to personally associate with the Lord, right, in your current state, at least. No, in our pure state, of course, we can, but here in this material body, not so easy, right? So may not be possible for us in this body to associate with the Lord. But we can obtain the same benefit by associating with the Lord in the form of his pastimes, right? So when we hear the pastimes of the Lord, we also associate with the Lord personally. So just as one who comes in contact with the Lord, he's freed now from all sinful activities, sinful reactions. The same way, one who regularly hears the pastimes of the Lord is similarly purified, even if one has killed a Brahmana or whatever, right? So as it is mentioned in the first canto, quote, by regular attendance in the classes of Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. And Sutta Goswami also blesses the students of this narration with, there is another blessing. So then there is also a blessing, another blessing. So the blessing is, we are blessed with extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. So, okay, we got this blessing also. Jai. And then Sutta Goswami, he concludes by stating that one who listened to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord, right? And that's, that's truly reassuring, right? So if we study this pastime when we are leaving our bodies, we go back to Godhead. So we study now, and when we are leaving our bodies, we can remember it, and then we can go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.